Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert Podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster.
Welcome back. This is the Dirt and Vert Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have Ron Wireman. So if anybody doesn't remember, we had Ron on last year. I believe it was last year. Mm-hmm. And, learned a little bit about Ron and some of his successes. And if you all remember, he had several podium finishes and just a long list of decorated races. Ron's pretty talented, but Ron's also a part of the Nobody Cares Run Faster team. And if you are watching, you can also see by his shirt that he just competed in Big's backyard for Team USA. Mm-hmm. And me and Ron got the pleasure of running together in Bob's backyard ultra back in the summer. And that was Ron's qualifier for Big's, which Ron had just an outstanding performance. Looked like he could have continued to run. I'm sure he didn't want to, but he looked like he could continue to run. So Ron, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about, Bob's and how that race went for you and, your ups and downs and your PR, your first PR this year for backyard ultras.
Yeah, Bob's, Bob's is a race that I love. It's a homegrown hometown race. Bob runs it. It's literally in his backyard. And this year in his front yard, too. He actually updated the course a little bit from the previous time, the first time that I did it there. So that was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. I knew there was some changes, but I didn't realize how drastic it actually was.
Well, I had no idea. I just assumed that was the course. So
yeah, so I believe that the trail is a little bit more runnable on the current way that he has it. Before it seemed like we had during the day loop, it's a lot more trail, grittier kind of running. You're doing a lot of ups and downs, hills. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. You run through these pine trees and stuff, but it seemed like there were more extended climbs on trails versus this time. There's a lot more, I'd say, open runnable sections and more like grassy areas, stuff like that, like easier stuff to run through than before. So I'd say a little less technical.
Well, and this was your second or third time running Bob's?
No, third time.
Third time.
Yeah.
And you've won it twice.
Yeah, twice.
So 2 years.
Pretty good odds.
Not in a row. So there's actually a few years in between. The second year I tried it, it was the really bad humidity. So, and I was not prepared for it. Eventually, I think mile 70 something, I was pretty done. I was having heart palpitation, like just weird stuff was going on, and I didn't feel good about it. And so I ended up dropping it in the night sometime.
That's the hard part about racing, which I attest to just from this weekend, but you never know when you line up at that starting line if it's going to be your best day or your worst day or just a normal day. You hope you're at least having a normal day.
Yeah.
So when you showed up at Bob's this year, did you feel like in the first, I would say, first few miles, but that's not how a backyard works. So like the first 6 to 8 hours, were you feeling like it was going to be a good day?
Yes, for sure. There was never really a point in that race where I felt like I was out of control of what was going on. So from the moment we started to even during the night, even when I was having rough patches, I still had everything pretty much where I wanted it to be. So there was never a time where I was doubting or, was like, I can't do this, or I don't know how far we can go. It was just a matter of who's going to go with me? How far are we going to take this thing? So I was mentally, I was 100% in that race.
And your total mileage ended up being what?
204.
204.
Yeah.
And that was your PR by far, by a lot.
Yeah,
correct?
because the first time out, we did 179. Me and Jim. I wanted to bump that up to at least 2 days, and that was the goal at the beginning. Was to that was my initial goal, was just to get to 2 days and see if we can go farther. Actually, so because if you got to 2 days, Bob has a special buckles. You get a golden buckle. And I really wanted to get that, not only for myself, but for Bob, because he'd had that since the beginning of the race. Nobody's touched it, because it is a difficult course. Even the new iteration, has its challenges. So I would say it's marginally easier, but there's nothing easy about the backyard. Even on the easiest course out there, those miles add up.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you almost think that an easier course isn't going to even truly be easier, because then you're going to use the same muscle over and over and over.
Monotonous. Yeah.
Whereas like Bob's and Biggs and a couple others that have 300, 400, 500 feet elevation gain, it helps split it up a little bit.
You start to look forward to that other pain.
Yeah.
So Bob's just went great. The first day we had rain, we had mud.
Plenty of mud.
And that really was rough on the night loop, because we switched to your road shoes and you have to run through this muddy stuff. Road shoes are not made for that. So you're slipping around, barely moving forward. Through that first section just to get out to the road, which is gravel. And so then your feet have picked up all this gravel in the mud on your shoes, so that definitely was challenging, but it wasn't anything like, you just dealt with it, and everybody else is going through the same stuff. So, we all had to deal with it.
Well, and it was, it was funny because some people were talking, they're like, I think Ron's going too fast. I said, y'all have never ran with Ron, have you?
Nope.
I was like, this is how Ron runs. Like, they're like, you typically don't see that in a backyard. I'm like, well, I was like, he's done really well. He's won this one before. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And, it's something that, I've always said, and I'm sure that others have said it, but, in a backyard, you run your own race.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's a fast loop or a slow loop, it doesn't matter. It's like whatever is comfortable for you. Yeah. That's the thing. If you start changing your stride up, it can go bad quick. And you were coming in like what, 30, upper 30s?
No. I don't think I was moving that fast, but yeah, probably in the 40s. I would definitely have a good 15 to 16 minutes, I would say, on a lot of those laps.
I was gonna say he was coming in pretty quick. Like I remember it would be like, I was thinking 38, but maybe it was 42 or something.
Yeah, so I definitely banked a lot of time on that first day. And that's typically how I approach it, because you feel good on the first day anyways. So why not run while you can?
Yeah.
Nothing's guaranteed, right? In the backyard. So, and my fitness level's at a point, after years of running, where I can do that pretty comfortably. It's not, it's going to be the same pain either way. Yes. It's coming down the road, and maybe it's a risk, but for me it's like a calculated thing. If I'm running what I usually run in my daily runs and stuff like that, then I'm pretty good. And so in training for this, I didn't have a lot of training either. That's the thing. I didn't have any big weeks. I didn't have any huge runs. My longest run was probably the Damn Yeti, which did not go well. So I ended up having to stop around before, I don't even think I hit 50K on that. So that was probably one of my longest runs.
Yeah. Before the podcast, we were already talking. It's funny. This is what me and Ron were talking about, but we've had completely opposite years now. I had a really good first half. He didn't. He's having a really good second half. I'm not.
Yeah. It's better to be lucky than good.
Right,
yeah,
I'll take luck any day.
Yeah, for sure.
But so back to Bob's, you run 200 plus miles. Your PR at that point's 174. Is that what you said?
179.
179, and then you get 204. Maybe that's from
204. Yeah,
204. So pretty big PR. You look like you could continue running though, so you still had more in you.
My last lap was 45. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. Plenty of that.
That's awesome. And And I know you had a couple low points in the race because me and you spent 1 or 2 laps together, but that's typical in a backyard, and you pulled it back together, and that's the thing. It's trying to figure out how to fix those in the moment. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but you just got to keep trying. And you pulled out of it and got back to normal and just started crushing it. And did you have any more low points after that night?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely you're going back and forth on lots of laps. I think I was getting, especially on that second night, me and Michael were running together. I was pulling him along, but he was also pulling me along in a lot of ways. So we were working together, but I made sure that we were. I stuck to him like glue, basically. I'm like, we are getting to 2 days because he didn't really want to. Honestly, I could tell he was struggling. He was having a hard time, and so I kept putting. It's like, we're going to get there. I'll get you there, and so that's basically what we did. We just worked together through the night, and. But yeah, I definitely had some times where I was getting a little bit tired and stuff like that. But nothing too bad.
I love that y'all are working together because that just shows like the camaraderie, like you're trying to push each other. You also want to do it for Bob to get to the 200 miles to get that buckle. Yeah. I think really, Ron, it was just you wanting that buckle. Maybe it was just selfish, but But no, like, I think it's awesome that you try to, you always try to push each other. And, when it is down to just a couple people, like it's almost like you form a little group that's almost like a lifelong friendship. When you get into those moments, like you see that person, you're like, you don't forget the time you spent with them.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Because like sometimes it's the lowest point ever, when you're spending that time with them. So it's like they're your best friend for the day, and it's kind of cool. But how does that? So now we get Bob's, we get the coin. How at what point do you start getting ready for Bob's, and how did you plan and prepare for that?
And that's what I was going back to.
I'm sorry, Biggs. I said Bob's.
That's okay. That's I'm with you.
Too many B's.
Biggs, Bob's.
So like I was saying, February through March, April, May, I was struggling with knee issues. Couldn't get it. Every time I would get something like going, the pain would come back. And so I really wasn't able to train a lot. But starting at I looked at my training log, and it was like June. So like literally 2 weeks before Bob's was like one of the first good runs that I had the whole year. Wow. Where I had like no pain, and I was able to do like a double digit run. This is amazing. But mentally I was already in it. So like each day when I'm doing my run, I'm thinking, I'm simulating like, what is this going to feel like in the race? What does this lap look like? So let's say I do a 6 mile run. That first 4.167 is basically a training run for the backyard. So, and I looked at, every day I would mark where I was at that point, whether it's 45 minutes, 55 minutes, 42 minutes, 33 minutes sometimes, if I feel good and do like a little pickup workout. So I'm doing that literally every day, every single day from June, July, August, September, October. So you asked me how I trained. That's how I got ready for Biggs.
Just focused on
literally
the format the whole time
on every single day.
Did you try to simulate any type of elevation or just run wherever you could run? Yeah.
So fortunately, the little trail behind my house got cleaned up because the tornado came through last year, and there's trees everywhere. And it's less than a quarter mile, but it's straight up. So I can do repeats there. I think I did like 30 repeats or something. So, and it's all on trail. It's pretty runnable. It's not rocky or anything, but it's trail. And so I got my road stuff in, and then I got my trail stuff in. So I definitely got a decent amount of climbing there. And then I would say the other training run was where we did the course sweep for Cherokee.
Oh yeah.
So that was some good vert, and I actually ended that run feeling great. I was running with I forget.
Dusty,
and we had another. I can't remember who was with us, but I ended up like leaving them at the end, and I just kind of took off. And they with permission, they said, if you want to go ahead, and I was literally already gone. They just took off. So that was a big. That was a few weeks before Bob's, and so that was a good okay, we at least have the fitness and some strength there. If I can just hold on to this, so that's basically after Bob's. I was like, I'm just want to take this mentality from Bob's, and we're just going to ride it into Biggs.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my mindset anyways, was I'm going to use this confidence boost basically. And if I can do it at Bob's, I can do it at Biggs. And so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. And I mean, you ran 20 miles sweeping that course, I think too.
Yeah.
And that's no joke for elevation either. So if you felt good, that was promising right before, going into the big race.
And there was some technical stuff in that area.
While carrying flags.
Flags.
Yeah, with the rusty flags. That's right.
So how did you, so the week of Biggs, what was your preparation like there?
It started before that. I would imagine. It's just such a task to get everything together. You got to think about your sleeping. You got to think about all the food that you need.
Oh, yeah.
You got to think about, okay, how am I going to charge my phone, my watch? Because you got crew there too. And I think that's the other thing you really have to think about. It's how am I going to take care of my crew? What are they going to be able to eat? Are we going to run out? We only had one car at the time because my other car got wrecked. So
yeah, just right before.
Yeah, right before.
Add a little stress to that.
And plus, I was traveling for work, so I was literally in Virginia. I can't really do anything because I'm not at home. So yeah, it was pretty stressful leading up to the race. It definitely wasn't ideal, but you make do, and it wasn't anything too bad. But we did have to fit everything into one tiny vehicle, so I had to really. Cut out this and that. What are we going to take? What are we not going to take? Kind of thing. And so we crammed it all in there. Every nook and cranny had something that we needed in there. Blankets, you got to think, what if it rains? Then you got to have all your rain gear. How many shoes are you going to need? I had a whole bag of shoes, so it's just a lot of little logistical things that you really cannot plan too much.
Right. And that's the thing. It's it's not 100-mile race, and I say that 100-mile race is not easy, but 100-mile race, you can throw in a pair of socks, a couple gels in a drop bag, and you're good. Just a couple things. Backyard, you don't know if you're going to run 2 days, 3 days. You don't know if it's going to rain, snow, tornado, it's all over the place. Lightning storms. I've done several like that where the races are just, it's just crazy. You never know. And especially in the fall in Tennessee, you never know if it's going to be winter or summer or what, you have no idea. And trying to prepare for that is just like you said, you can only take so much stuff, and you're trying to be proactive and I got to make sure I've got plenty, but you can only take so much, you start running out of space.
Yeah. So we took basically as much as we could. And then I'm like, okay, well, the stores aren't too far. If we need a resupply, then we can do that. Plus I had other people coming in. So that I think that was the hardest part, was LAS kind of limits you to how many people you can have crew, which was 2.
Mm-hmm.
I took that as 2 at any given point in time.
I like that.
So he can argue with me on that. He didn't. But we really didn't get that far either. So
yeah,
unfortunately,
I don't know. You did. I wouldn't say unfortunately. I mean,
I wanted to go farther. I wanted to have my entire team there. I wanted to see people swapping in and out.
I was going to say Tuesday morning. I was like, oh, I better start packing.
Yeah.
I think I texted
Right.
April and I was like, what time you want me there? And Becca's like, if you be here at 8, I can go. I was like, got it. And then I think it was a couple hours later. I was like, uh-oh. But, I think that's, even to that point, like the detail that you had to plan of making sure that you had coverage. Like
coverage.
Ron was messaging everybody, like, and we started a group chat, you know, just into that detail with us and telling us what, you know, what your expectation were, what days. And, you know, I thought you did a really good job there of getting into the details and making it less stressful for you during the race so that you didn't have to worry about it. And I think kudos to you for that, because a lot of people don't get into that detail. So I think you did a good job there.
Yeah. And I was just thankful to have, you know, people willing to come out, you know, even if it was just for that day. And it ended up being 2 days. Like Becca was there almost 2 days, 40 hours, you know, that's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing.
Who was your first crew was
April and Andrew. And so Andrew had I think he was the assist at Littles. So I knew he knew the drill and everything, because I hadn't met Andrew before. I had met Becca. I've ran a few of her races, you know, in her backyard. So I was pretty comfortable. And then you guys. So I had you and Chris as stepping in if I was able to continue and keep going. And man, I really wanted to. So,
well, I can tell you that I was really rooting for you, but after we ran the No Business aid station on Friday, I was super glad that you weren't still running Friday, because I'm pretty sure we would have not been able to manage it without Chris, because there was only like 4 or 5 of us, and it was like Desert Storm out there. But so starting off, like, you know, all your preparation.
Yep.
What did you think? Like you've planned your crew, you've planned all of your gear. How did you even begin to plan food?
Yeah, I give all the credit to my wife on that one. So April did a huge amount. We actually made a menu. I had a menu for each day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Exactly what we were going to make. She pre-made food, so we already had cooked food. So all we'd have to do is like basically heat it up. So that was pretty awesome. So yeah, she had pancakes, all this stuff, sausage, you know, soups. We had awesome. Grilled chicken already ready to go, prepackaged with rice in serving size packages. So literally it was super easy for the crew to just be like, hey, what do I want this? Okay, here it is. And it's already packaged. It's already in the right amount. And she did all that. So she was amazing.
What did you find that you went to the most with your food?
Well, I've actually got the list right here.
Nice. We'll have to put that on the social media.
Yeah, so we've got every single lap. I've got laps and lap splits and basically what I ate. So I've got pancakes. I got cheese quesadillas, s'mores bars, body armors. We got apples, bananas. That's fresh fruit. Granola bars, bananas, peanut butter, salmon. We've got.
Oh wow!
Boom! Yeah, that was one of the things that we had pre-made.
April, so you know, if you ever want to make a menu for East Coast Adventures and volunteer for races, you just let us know.
Yeah, she kind of crushed it. So everything went really well until we get to lap 15, and that is where I had some chicken noodle soup. And that did not sit well at all. And my stomach totally turned. Yeah. And they even wrote it down. Chicken noodle did not agree, threw up. So there you go.
I think David's got a story about chicken noodle and creamy chicken soup.
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So chicken noodle soup did not work for me either.
It didn't.
Mid-State Mile years ago. This was my second time running it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still like feeling my way around, you know, like trying to understand nutrition and everything. But you just get to the point you're so tired, people just start giving you food.
Yep. Oh, no.
Mike, you know, at this point, Mike's out, and they're kind of crewing me. No, were you out?
Yeah.
Okay.
That first day I was way out.
And Mike just opens a can of chicken noodle soup. A can. And hands it to me and says, drink it.
No, man.
Dude, I drank the whole can.
Oh my gosh.
I walked up to the start line.
Bro, just
the whole can went everywhere. And I come back. I just run the lap. I come back, and I'm just like, my stomach. And Mike's like, you drunk the whole can? I said, you didn't tell me how much. I said, you just handed me the can and said, drink it. And it did not work. So. What do you think? Did you try any more chicken noodle soup, or did you just push that?
Once I don't even know if it was the soup. It was just like the taste of it or something was just I don't know. It was not good. And that started off, because the day loop went really good. We, the first 12 hours we were running, you get a little tired, because there's a lot of elevation on course, but everything was running pretty good on cylinders.
Yeah, so that was lap 15. So
you're
middle of the night.
Yeah, so I was just starting in the middle of the night. And
that's hard.
Yeah, it got harder. So I threw up, and then I go out, and you're going out on the next lap in the night, and the night loop it starts off downhill. It's relatively flat, but you're gradually downhill about that first mile. It flattens out a little bit on the turn. So you turn and you go out, and then you go up another hill, and then you go through like this wooded kind of area where there's woods on either side, and then you go downhill again and to the third turn, and that's where you do like a short, I say short out and back, but it's probably half a mile. So you go out to the turnaround point and come back. Turnaround point's uphill too. So there's actually quite a few hills on this night course. People don't really realize that, and I forgot myself because I did it in 21.
And it's all gravel too, right?
It is it's paved.
It's paved. Okay.
Yeah, so you actually do get paved.
Well, that's kind of nice.
That's
at least there's that.
Me. Yeah, that's great for me because that's what I do like 90% of my training on. So, I definitely looked forward to that, and I knew I could bank a little bit more time. You can't bank much time on the day. Well, you're not banking any time on the day loop. You're just trying to get in,
survive,
and have enough time to eat some stuff, and that's it. There's literally there's no such thing on that course. It is tough. You're going, you do that first little road section, which you go downhill and back up, of course, and everything on that trail is either down or up. There's a few runnable sections here and there, but otherwise you're climbing something or gradually working your way up and then back down.
Yeah, and that was a conversation I saw that was getting posted a lot on social media, was just comparing the country's backyard courses. Like Biggs they still believe it is the hardest course. So it's kind of like I know everybody's competing and it's cool and it's fun, but ultimately like the courses play a significant role in obviously your performance, because if you got an easier course and a harder course, now granted, a backyard's backyard. If you can go out and run for 3 or 4 days at 4.167 miles, like that's a testament in itself. Yeah. But the course plays a significant factor, especially when you got a lot of elevation. And they say that Biggs is one of the hardest courses.
I mean, I don't know all the other courses, but it's definitely not flat, and it's definitely not an easy to navigate course. Whereas I saw some of the Mexico race, they're literally just running on a flat dirt road. I mean, that's as easy as it gets. Really. Yeah. The thing is, and I was thinking about this, is by having an easier course, you reduce all of the the questionable stuff, like rolling ankles, hip issues, knee issues, because you're twisting and turning around these bends, around these corners, around this tree. You're ducking stuff, you're dodging stuff, you're literally jumping up over boulders on a lot of that course. So, you eliminate all those factors by having an easier course. So your attrition rate reduces way down. And I think that's really the name of the game, right? It's a battle of attrition. Yeah. Whoever can last the longest is in. I would say other countries who have an easier course, they reduce those factors down so much that, it's a huge advantage.
That's a good point. But again, not to take anything away from anybody, to run for days up on end, even if it's an easy course, is
Oh yeah.
is
For sure.
impressive.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's those guys are still amazing. Like
Yes.
that's still awesome. Because then you flip it. The other side of that coin is you're using the same muscles the
Yeah.
whole time, and you're not really breaking it up any.
Yeah.
So that has its challenges
So
of its own. So
For 2025, it's an individual year, right?
yes.
So everybody who's won these races will come to
Yeah.
Bell Buckle, Tennessee,
Yeah. They will.
and get to run that course.
Yeah.
And so they may be used to some of them easier, faster courses that take away all them aspects of it. And then they come over here and they're like,
Gonna
well, this is different.
Yeah.
This is not the
Yeah,
same.
they're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
They're gonna get their butt kicked if they don't train for it. But,
Yeah.
the top runners, they
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
they're doing, and I don't see the thing is, like, if we went to their course, we'd probably be similar in our things, and if they came to our course, they'd probably be similar to us. So it's just a matter of training for the
Yep.
course, and that's the way it is. It's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, again, it's kind of a cool sport or event because you have just so many different countries involved and so many people, so it's kind of cool. And then next year we'll get to see some of those talented runners come to Tennessee and see what they can do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But you were alluding to lap 15, chicken noodle soup, and then from there, where did it go?
So yeah, that started probably the worst stretch of running that I've probably ever ran through that I can recall.
Oh wow!
Ever.
Let's hear.
So yeah, I mean, you're going out on that lap. You have no nutrition, basically no hydration, because I couldn't really drink anything either. So I go out on the night loop, and I'm just tired. So it's like whatever o'clock in the morning, and you're running through these. You're running out, and you're usually like with a few people, but it wasn't like we were running in a big group or anything. Like everybody just sort of did their own thing. And if you happen to run with somebody, then that was great. But otherwise, people just we mostly kept to ourselves or in small groups. So you're running. I'm tired. Legs are just starting to hurt. I started running through the wooded section. So it's on the second stretch of road. You run up the hill into these, you got trees just lined on either side all the way down. The moon's up now, and it's casting like shadows to the trees onto the road. So I'm literally seeing trail on the road, and I'm skipping over rocks and stuff, like, because it looks like there's trail there. And I'm like, I'm literally jumping while I'm running on the pavement. So I'm seeing weird stuff. Like, I've never experienced hallucinations like that. I could see objects, like large machines in the road.
And this is
like
the first
caterpillars
night?
and stuff. Yeah, first night. Yeah. And it's good. And this was probably on like maybe that second time, because so I did that loop. I came back in, I ate something else, and I threw that up, like, because I felt my stomach hurt, like while I was just sitting there and resting. And then as soon as we would start the lap, I would go into the porta potty and literally just throw everything up into the porta potty.
Oh man!
Every single lap.
At least you were nice enough to go into the porta potty.
I know exactly.
I wouldn't have made it that far.
Yeah, so I think I did that 3 times in a row where I had no nutrition, no hydration, and I was just running out on basically fumes. And so that, with the combination of not sleeping, I saw so many things. I would see people, celebrities would be talking to me. Like, I would literally be having a conversation, but I was so tired I would be asleep. And so I would have my eyes closed, and then I would be like, hey, and I would be awake, like, all of a sudden while I was running.
Who's your favorite celebrity you talked to?
I think Matthew McConaughey. Like, I was like talking to him, and we were literally having a conversation, and I was like, yeah. And then that's when I woke up, and there would be times where I was just like running, and I would like just bob awake.
I love that it's Matthew McConaughey.
That's who it was. There was other ones too. Like, there were other people and just like random, just figures that I would be seeing, and they would be saying things to me. and I would be having conversations. And I'm not sure if I was asleep or awake. It was really hard to tell the difference a lot of the time. So yeah, but I just kept. I mean, it's so weird. It's just,
So I'm guessing you had no caffeine at this point.
I can't recall. Yeah, I don't think so, and I usually don't for the first day.
Because I think even when we talked to Meg about it, she said that first night everybody was silent.
Yeah. And it was colder that night too.
Yeah.
And she said you all were just talking and having fun the whole day, and then when night got there, it was just like everybody.
The mood dropped in a big way.
And I think she experienced. We didn't get to talk much on hers because we were kind of like going through her whole story. But she kind of said. She kind of hinted around that we didn't get into the hallucinations too much.
Yeah.
But apparently she had a lot of them, and we talked a little bit at the end, but same with her. She had a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would see like where the moon was shining through the trees. It would look like there was buildings like off the side, like where these trees were forming buildings, like abandoned shacks and different things I would see off to the side. One time I was running with Scott. Maybe it was Scott, but I looked over in the field. It's an empty field. There's nothing there. There's maybe a house in the distance. And I was like, look at all those porta potties. Like, that's so awesome that they put all these porta potties. Like, dude, there's no porta potties over there. I was like, but I thought for sure they were there. Like, there was an entire, like 50 of them.
I wish he'd been like, yeah, Ron, go use one. Go on over there, use it.
Yeah.
Or
not illegal. It's not illegal.
Or that photographer, the videographer that was going to the race, if he's sitting there talking to you and you're like, there's porta potties. I'm like, screen over porta potties over there, Ron.
Yeah. So it was, like I said, it was just like one of the roughest things I think I've ever ran through. I've had like.
Did you ever feel in that moment like you were going to time out?
No. Never did. Like I knew what I had to do, and I knew I was hurting. Like I knew that I was hurting, my stomach was hurting, but I was like, what can I do to get out of this? And I would try to sleep. So I would get back. And so I tried to run a little bit faster. Like once I got out of that, the shady area was always like where all the stuff happened. And so once I got out of that shady area into like the open moon, because there was a nice almost full moon that lit up everything. We didn't even have our headlamps.
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
The majority of the
time.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Like we did it for like the first loop because it just starts to get dark and the moon wasn't up yet. So we kind of forgot on that second day. We all go out and Harvey's like, it's dark. So, usually one or two of us were smart enough to have a light, but I run in the dark a lot anyways. So I'm used to running.
How did you navigate in this moment? Like, how are you navigating your stomach? Were you just trying stuff, or were you just trying not to eat?
So, and I just had to look at my sheet, this is really cool because I'm so glad they kept this for me because it like gives me. So like, my lap 15 was 47 minutes, 16 was 50, 28, 17, 51, 53. So I'm coming in, I've still got, 8 minutes to try to deal with stuff and try to get that sleep and get out of the like hallucination, sleep deprivation, whatever you want to call it, state. I had a couple bites of mashed potatoes, threw up.
Oh, goodness.
Pretzel or two. And I think the pretzel, actually 17 started bringing me back. So I had a couple pretzels, and I think I had some chips too. I had like some tortilla chips.
So how many times did you throw up this first night?
I think 3.
Ooh.
Every lap. And then the 4th time I dry heaved. So we started the lap and I went over to the side of the road. I didn't go in the port body, but we started before we even went down that first hill. I went over to the side of the road and I tried to throw up, and there was nothing there. So maybe that reset everything.
Yeah.
And
so you were just running with no calories at that point, which is another problem in its own, trying to get enough energy to even finish the lap, but at least you were making it back.
Yeah, like I was still running. Like that's the thing. I did 48:58 the next lap, 48:50, 52. So, I was still able to run and I was walking. That's with walking a lot of those. So you're walking the hills, you're walking up the steeper sections, and so I was just able to pace it. So fortunately, it didn't continue. I think if it would have continued and I wasn't able to, like if I would have ate some more and then threw up again after that point, it would have gotten bad. But Fortunately, that didn't happen. So I had no food, even on laps after that. I went straight to sleep, no food, drank some water, slept. Feeling better, tired, taking water out. That's all. That's literally all I had for 2 more laps. And then it was the tortilla. Yeah, so 20 was tortilla chips, some oatmeal. So, and then I had more oatmeal. So that oatmeal was vibing. I was vibing on that oatmeal. And they cut up some fresh fruit in there too. So I started to finally get a little bit of stuff back in my stomach, a little bit of energy back.
I would say the oatmeal probably definitely helped you there.
Yeah.
Was it the original oatmeal, or was it like apple cinnamon oatmeal?
It was just.
I like it. I like that apple cinnamon oatmeal.
No, I think it was just original. I usually go with plain, and then I add stuff to it, honey or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, fighting through that first night was absolutely brutal. And I finally got to lap 24. That's the day lap.
Is that the first daylight loop? Or?
I think it's 23, 24.
Okay.
We get 1 hour there where the sun's just starting to crack.
Yep.
And so you get a little bit of daylight before you.
That was always a nice feeling.
It's so good. Yeah. Once that day came up, I was like, all right, we're back in this thing.
It revitalizes you. As soon as you see the sun come, you're like, no, we're starting all over.
And even Laz was like, hey, he's back from the dead, or he said something. Made me feel pretty good too. Because everybody was talking about it, the next day when I was running the day loop, and I was doing just fine. They're like, dude, we thought you were done. Like, it's like, that's really impressive. And so that was so awesome, because you have these amazing runners out there, and they're saying like, hey, you really inspired us out, to pull out of that. And so that just made me feel on top of the world, man.
Well, I mean, it's true though.
Yeah.
I mean, most people couldn't go that long throwing up and not eating and still manage to make it back in. So, like that was just sheer willpower and grit, to be able to do that. But kudos to you for managing it. That's the thing. It's like, not only are you're trying to stay in the game, like finish that loop, but it's also, you're the only one that's going to fix your stomach.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell people how you're feeling exactly in a race. You don't have that much time, and you're trying to like, what food can I get? What can I do? Should I just take water? And water only is very risky, because now you're getting no calories, but you managed it, and and geez, you went from lap 15 to lap 24, basically. Like, finally the last 2 laps, you were like starting to eat oatmeal and stuff. So, I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have been able to do that with no food.
Yeah, I just kept, like I said, mentally, it just kept my head in the game. And it was kind of the same thing I did at Bob's. I had that rough spot. You were there. You were literally there with me, running side by side. And
we were last place that lap.
Yeah, exactly. And so you got, that's the thing about the backyard. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to say, okay, I'm going through this bad patch, this rough patch. But I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to keep starting that next loop. So if you can just start that next loop, the next yard, then you're still in the game.
Yeah. It's a great point and good strategy. Just being able to try to hold that actually together, though, is the problem.
It is, but that's the challenge. That's the challenge. It's working through all these things. That's kind of the awesome part about backyards, is you go through, you're going to deal with maybe a few of these things in a 100 miler, but in a backyard, you're definitely going to be dealing with multiple different things, and you don't know when they're going to hit or how you're going to feel. So, being mentally in the game was a huge thing, and I think I learned that at Bob's in a big way. The first time I did it, I survived. The second time, I knew what I was doing, and I was able to, like I said, carry that into that mindset into bigs.
Well, you definitely figured it out, because to be able to survive what you did is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that was just the beginning. It's just like the first day. That's the warm up, man.
So day 2, sun's up,
guns out.
Yep, ready to roll.
Yep.
How are we doing at this point?
And it was cold that first night too. I think that's another factor. It did get close to maybe under 40 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So it was cold. But when we were running, it was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was chilly that first night. Second day comes up and it's warmer. So the first day it was moderately warm. Second day, much warmer. So ice packs started coming out. I had ice on my neck, ice on my head. We were constantly just finding ways to stay cool. But in the day loop, you do have quite a bit of coverage from the trees and stuff like that. There's really only a few exposed areas.
That's nice.
So that did, I think, save us. If it had been any warmer, that would have been a major issue.
Now, day 2 is when we started losing some of the crew.
Day
right?
2, we lost a couple, but it was late. It was late into day 2, I believe. They stuck it out, and we had. I'm not sure. I think Ryan was one of the first ones.
Yep.
He had some issues going into the race. I didn't know that. I actually ran with him a little bit at the beginning and talked to him. He's a chiropractor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was talking to him, asking him questions about that while we were running, but he was moving out there, and I thought he looked just as strong as anybody else. So that just kind of shows you, like, you don't really know what other people are going through, because he said he ran the day before and he was having issues. So, he ran the course a little bit and said he was feeling stuff. So you don't know that when you're out there. You just see another like freaking awesome person that's just out there crushing it. Like, I'm looking up the trail, he's already at the top, So I'm like, well, he's moving well, he must be feeling good, but you just don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's everybody ran together for what, at least 30 plus hours, I guess.
Yeah.
And before anybody fell out.
Yeah.
Pretty
really
impressive.
And that's the thing, when you're running, you're kind of just focused on yourself for the most part until you get out on the course. So you don't really know when you've lost people. Yeah. And that's what I kind of sucked, because I was like, man, what happened to so-and-so? Like, they stopped. I'm like, no, they didn't. Like,
I bet that is way different, because normally when you do a backyard, you've got 75 people, 100 people out there with you, and you got 15.
Yeah.
So if one falls out, it's like, oh, because, when there's 75 people out there, you don't really notice if one or two falls out, but you're going to notice immediately if you lose a teammate, I bet that was much different.
It's so different. It was crazy, because you keep listening. Like, usually in a backyard, first day, people are dropping off like crazy.
Yep.
You're hearing that bell, ding, ding, ding. People are just going left and right. And then especially after like 24 hours, it's pretty thinned out.
Yep.
You still hear, people are still going to drop. But with this, it was like, ain't nobody dropping. We all in this. We're just going. And so, everybody had that mindset. We're literally going to go as far as we can go. And so, go through a full day, no drops. It's crazy.
Was it very much like a team? Did you feel like it was a team?
We had a group chat and stuff before the race, but I didn't really know but a handful. Like, I had met Harvey. I'd ran with Harvey a few times. Scott was at Biggs, so that's where I met him, and Levi, which I hadn't actually ran with him that much, even though he's done Biggs. He's won Biggs multiple times, if I recall. So, but I hadn't really talked to him. So for me, it was like meeting everybody for the first time, and I think a few of them had ran together. So we tried to come together as a team. Like, there was definitely a team spirit about it. And, on that first night loop, Harvey tried to get us all together and run as a group, which did not work for me personally. But, it was really awesome just to see him out there and like, hey, this has worked before and we're going to do it again. So, yeah, I think we did try to come together as a team. And if people needed help, we tried to help them. So, like, the first... maybe it was the second night, I saw Greg up ahead and he's weaving like all over the road, and I'm like, well, I know what I've been there, because I was just literally doing that. Like, I would be running and I would, like, my arm would just fly up, and then I would wake up, like, because I would lose balance while I was asleep. and that's what would wake me up. So I saw him like weaving back and forth across the road. And so I went up and I was like, hey, you all right, Craig? He's like, no, man, I am tired. And I was like, okay. It's like, no problem. I was like, I'll run with you. So I literally ran with him the rest of the whole loop. And it's pretty cool. Like to be able to do that and pull other people along. And people pulled me along too. You know, Meg, you just had her on. She definitely helped me on a couple laps where, you know, I wasn't able to stick with the group per se. And so my stomach started hurting a little bit because they were trying like this run walk thing and it was not working for me because I would have to stop and go. And I was like, I just kind of want to hang back and just run, you know, at my own pace. And she's like, oh, I'll run with you. And we talked a lot on the first day too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, Meg's so cool. She's awesome to run with, and she's super, like her running stride and everything is like so economical. I would literally just like hang on behind her and just let her grind, you know, kind of thing. So yeah, she was awesome to run with, and like I said, she's just good to talk to as well. So, you know, we would talk about, she was a teacher and stuff like that. So, you know, I'd been a teacher in the past, so we had quite a bit in common too. So I think that helped.
I think she mentioned art.
Yeah.
So she talked about that. So.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, we just had a good time out there, and that goes for everybody that I ran with. You know, at certain points in time, you get to talk to certain people. Some people have bigger personalities than others, which is great, and it's really welcome out there. So, you know, we would go back and forth. Chris Roberts, he'd be, you know, getting on me about my shoes. I'd get on him about his shoes, and so we just kind of go back and forth and just try to keep it light, fun, and you know, keep it more like not as serious. Yeah. Like we were serious about going far, but sometimes you have to like get yourself out of that like race. We're all, you know, trying to kill each other or whatever. Yeah. There was really none of that. It's all, you know, everybody out there's experienced. We all know that, you know, we've got the goods kind of thing. So there wasn't really any major like ego stuff where this person's going to try to do this or whatever. At least from my perspective, I just wanted to get us as far as we could go.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it was a strong team. Even, I mean, I remember years ago when I ran with Piotr, he's just a great guy. You know, he's fun to talk to. I watched that man drink so many beers in our backyard ultra we did, because it was down to me, him, and Sarah. And he was just drinking. It was like Pigeon Brewing, I think, like in Michigan. But he had he had so many beers, like that's what, but it saved him. It brought him back. Wow. And like he ended up winning. And that's the year that he won.
Sounds like him. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's the year he won bigs too.
He's a great runner. He's a
cool guy.
And just an awesome dude. Like he's so humble, and he'll talk to you while you're out there. And I actually I met him in 21. So he was in the tent across from me. So I talked to him for a while. And so he was one of the guys I knew that's awesome. Coming into the race, and we ran together quite a bit while we were out there. So, and he would always say, "You look really smooth, Ron. You look good." Okay. So I'll believe.
I don't feel like it.
I
don't feel like it
because. Yeah.
So when did things start to go south?
I mean, honestly, on that second day, the heat started turning up a notch. The legs start to feel that thousands of feet of elevation. You know, my hip flexors, quads were getting pretty rough. But I was still good. Like looking at lap splits and stuff, you know, 53, 58, 52, 53, 55s. And then, you know.
Ooh, 58? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What happened there?
I think I just took my time getting back, because the next one was like 52. So it was just one of those where I walked more than others. And that could have been one where, you know, like I was saying a few times, I just had bad, you know, just slower laps. That one, Meg and me came in really behind everybody else. And that's just how it was. I just wasn't feeling all that great.
I would say there's going to be laps where you just can't. no matter what you do, like you need a lap here and there where you just kind of like chill.
Yeah.
Because then you have the poop loop laps that you have to make up for it.
That very well could have been the case too. Yeah. I try to sneak those in when I can and like pick it up a little bit. But yeah, lap split times kind of drop off after that. But from what
So day 2, you think it was the heat that finally started getting you?
I wouldn't say it got me, but it definitely turned up the difficulty factor on getting in on time. So by the end of the day 2 on that day loop, I was like, okay, we just got to finish these laps. And
did that affect you any at the night? That's the one thing I guess I've realized. Like if you have a really hard day, even in a race,
mm-hmm.
Where you get overheated or overexhausted, the night becomes really hard because you're fatigued and you can't stay awake.
Yeah.
Did that happen any with you on day 2?
No. And that's usually how it goes for me. I was just kind of in my zone and just making sure I got my nutrition and as much as I could and just try to rest, like not sleep rest, but just rest when I came in. So even those few couple minutes, getting my feet up, stuff like that. Just the resting as much as I could, get your heart rate down if you can. And then when we got to night 2, no problems. Like road for me is, no problems at all for me on the road. That's, like I said, most of my training's on the road. So I was just kind of able to stick with the group on that road night. Yep. So second night went good. Then we get to the third day. It's like, man, third day.
That's a
whole 2 days.
That's a whole new adventure for you at this point.
So the sun comes up on that third day, and you're like, wow. But at that point, I didn't even really know like what I was doing. I just knew like this is what I do. Like I come in, I run, I eat, and then I go back out. And, you don't think about it when you're in it, because it's just like it's like a different world.
How did it feel to hit the 300-mile mark? Like that morning, how did that feel?
Yeah, on the fourth day.
Fourth day. Yeah, how did that feel?
It was good, but it was good, and I was excited. I was actually looking forward to seeing how many day loops I could get. And I was thinking like all night, through the night. Of course, I had a hard time staying awake on the third night, on those night loops.
Did you really?
Yeah. I had, it wasn't as bad as the first night, but, I was, literally slapping myself awake a few times. I was talking to myself, like literally having conversations with myself just to stay awake. So I'd be like, hey, how's this going? What are we going to do? I don't know. What are we going to eat when we get back? I don't know, man. And so literally it's like, having like a Smeagol Gollum type of thing going on out there where we're just talking to each other. You just try to do anything you can to stay awake because, you're just tired.
Yeah.
Sleepy tired. You've only slept a handful of minutes at a time. And, and my legs were really sore on that, after 48 hours. Really had a hard time with quads. We're getting shredded on that day loop. And then you go to the night loop, you still got hills and you're still putting miles on, you're at 250 miles, man. It's, it adds up.
Was there ever like a moment on day 3 where you were just like excited or happy that you had hit a certain number, or were you just like, just trying to go till you didn't have any expectation?
I wanted to get the top seed in the world. And so around, I don't know, maybe 60, yard 60 was when I was like, I think I beat my PR. I was like, I think I'm doing pretty good. But I also knew Belgium was like kicking it. And so I was like, I don't know who the other guy is, because they kept saying there's another guy in Belgium that's doing really good. And I was like, okay, he's in your seed. And so I wanted to at least, get, outlast him. And it turns out he had gone he had dropped like way before that. They just didn't tell me because they wanted me to keep going, as extra motivation. So I didn't find that out till later. But
yeah, I mean, so you were I guess we missed that in the very beginning, but you were a 15th seed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you were the last 15th seed running in the world.
Yes.
Which makes you the overall first place, like 15th seed period. Like, who was the closest to you?
It was Tiananmen, maybe. I don't know how his Belgium name. I probably don't saying it right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I didn't know that, and nobody else seemed it. They just said it's a Belgium guy. I'm like, okay, well, it's a Belgium guy.
How close was he?
I think he got to 51.
Okay.
So he was a couple sick,
Yeah. You could have quit way earlier. If you wanted to.
Yeah.
But I mean, you wouldn't have wanted to.
No.
That wasn't your goal.
Yeah.
So we're talking. I skipped ahead a little bit on the 300 questions, but so day 3. How is the menu working and the food and the stomach at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was going more for like soups and things like that, and then our counter stops at 54, so we didn't get too much farther into that before my crew was like, yeah, this is you're good here, and we're gonna
that's pretty awesome.
We're gonna take it over.
That's pretty awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I had bar, apple squeezies, more salmon, rice, salt tabs at 53, banana, fig Newtons, stuff like that, honey.
Was there one thing that like you would come in and be like, oh yes, damn, I've been waiting on this all day?
It was the soup. Yeah.
Soup. Which soup?
Not the chicken noodle soup, but there was another chicken noodle soup. It was different. And so yeah, it was like soup. It had rice and some other stuff in there. Nice. And I was just like hammering that with bread. And so I was just eating bread and soup, and like I was like, keep that coming, keep it coming. And like when I liked something, I would tell them like next time. And so a lot of these things that I ate, they would keep and then have it for me the next time I came in. So even though it's maybe not on here, there's multiple things where I was just kind of eating it through the day, and then we'd switch to something else. I tried to have like a breakfast, lunch, dinner type thing to kind of keep it as like normal as possible to my normal eating. So I think that helped a little bit. But yeah, I think the oatmeal with fresh fruit was like kind of bomb. I'm trying to think of some other
it sounds like the oatmeal actually saved you. Yeah. So that's a good thing.
I think so.
What were you doing hydration wise? Like, how was you getting your electrolytes?
I had Propel, so
okay.
I that's worked for me before, so I stuck with that. Body armors, water mostly. And
then just salt tabs.
Yeah, we had some Noon, I think, and Propel. Yeah.
Nice. Do you do the sugar-free Propel, or do you just do the normal?
I can't even. No, just the normal stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So I have to have all kinds
I
of
like
sugar.
looked at all the things. I was like, this one looks good. Okay.
Now, if you could have gone back and changed anything, what would have been the number one thing you would have changed? What do you think would have helped you?
I would have had some different shoes for the night loop. The road, some better road shoes. I had Hoka's the first night, and I ended up getting blisters from them, and I was kind of hoping that I could count on those, and so I switched to some other road shoes that didn't have quite as much cushion, and I think that would have helped a lot. And in the end, we get to the end, my knee was what caused most of the issues, so probably just putting an actual wrap on my, I don't know why I didn't even think of it, but putting something on my knee, like when you,
dude, you're
like
you're 3-4 days in. Like,
my brain is not
delusional.
You can't, you can't really.
Yeah, so
work
I sort of like regret that a little bit, but it did pop up out of nowhere. Like literally, I got to the third day, and fourth day. Like I don't even know how to do. Like it's so weird.
Yeah.
To try to delineate like how many days and all this stuff, but yeah, on that 300 miles.
Because that would have been what, the fourth morning, third
right,
night, but fourth morning,
right? So you get so fourth day, nothing was wrong through the night. Like I didn't have any issues, and then that fourth day, as soon as I hit the trail, my knee was having a lot of pain.
So where was your knee? Like, was it inside, outside?
Outside. So it was something on the lateral side and towards like the actual bottom. So I don't think it was like an IT issue, although that very well could be, but it didn't feel like that because I'd had IT issue earlier on the other side of my leg. And that I pretty much know how that feels. It does feel like it's in the knee when it's IT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This did not feel like that. It felt like a stabbing, like right in the bottom side.
How long did it take for that to go away?
It didn't go away.
No, I meant like
after
after the race. Like
it still
got it.
Me a little bit. Yeah. I'm just walking right now and taking my recovery as slow as it takes.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like you never know what your problem is going to be.
Yeah.
Ever. And, like Meg, it was her calf. That's what took her out. She, I guess she got a cramp. That's what she was saying. And she said she was like taking her fist and like just shoving it in there. And she literally like sit down, I think is what she said. And she was like trying to get it out and she couldn't.
Yeah.
And, and that's kind of, she said she kind of knew then. So, it's that thing. It's like you push your body to the point of like 3-4 days and you throw multiple terrain at it, like you're going to explore new things that are going to pop up. And to your point, when you've been up for 40 plus hours, you can't think about like, oh, well, I guess I could have took 2 Tylenol, or I could have wrapped my leg, or I should have took a massage gun.
Well, I had that going. We had that going all day, like as much as I could. Yeah, that third day, oh my gosh. Yeah, my legs were so sore. I am talking, it hurt to do anything. My hip flexors all the way down, both sides of the quad, like the entire quad all the way down to the knee, just completely numb.
I bet you couldn't even bend over, could you?
It hurt so bad just to do anything. And so on the, on that, after 300 miles, that's what we did with it. So every day I changed shoes. So every night loop or whatever, I'd change shoes, and then day loop, I'd change shoes and just kind of swap back and forth. So I'd do trail shoes in the day, road shoes at night. So on the 4th day, we start 300 miles and I'm like, okay, we got to switch to trail shoes. So we switched to trail shoes. I, put them on and everything. And I run over to the start line. Everything's fine. And so I get like out to the road, because there's like a little gravel section of his driveway out to the road. It's like, I don't know, 50 feet, something like that. So I run out to the road and I look down like, oh, my shoes aren't tied. This is like a huge issue at this point because I can't even bend down to tie my shoes. Like that's how sore I am. Yeah. So I bend down and it hurts so bad. Like it just feels like my muscles are going to pop. Like it just hurts so bad. And so I'm like gingerly trying to tie my shoes and, lace them up and get them, I get this one done. That's an ordeal. Now I got to do this other one. And so, I stand back up. And it hurts so bad, and then down the hill again. Start the day loop, but I lost probably 6 minutes just getting my shoes, tying my shoes, and 6 minutes on a day loop is rough because everybody else is already in the woods. They're already gone by the time I get up there. By the time I get to the the entrance of the woods, I can't see anybody. They're already well ahead of me. So that was like the first time, and then. First time I was like, ooh, that's not good, but you deal with it. And
What shoes did you use? So you ran with Hoka's on the road, and then what'd you use on the day? On the trail.
I had Solomon's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you normally run in on trail?
That's what I wore at Bob's.
Okay.
That's what's been working for me the best.
And did you stick with the Hoka's on the road?
No, I switched to Pumas.
Okay.
On the next 2 night loops. Because they're a little bit lighter, but like I said, I'm still looking for like the golden
there's
shoe
not one
that has cushion and is light and won't jack my knee up.
If anyone ever screwed the shoe game up in a race, it was me at Bob's. I didn't even show up with trail shoes, Ron.
I know. I
went to REI and bought them, and it was terrible. So I understand like the frustration of like, especially like that first night you get blisters. I mean, that had to be enough just to be in your head at that point. Then you're throwing up on top of that. Like that's like a bad situation to where you could have easily have gave up, but you didn't. but you could have easily just threw in the towel with all of that going on. So kudos to you for finding a way to navigate that.
Yeah.
Regardless of the knee issue, like, I understand the sleep deprivation at that point and trying to figure that out, but like, that was probably also a new pain that you probably never had to deal with. Or is that the same knee pain you had earlier this year?
No, it's different.
Okay.
It was different. Yeah, that was on the inside. This was on the outside. So it was definitely different, which was kind of good. I was like, okay, well, at least we're not,
not a re-injury.
Yeah, it's already there. So whatever, the work that I did and the recovery that I did paid off, to be able to not have that same issue pop up. But as far as pain goes, it was very similar to the first time I ran bobs, because that's when I had whatever go in my knee, but it was on the inside. This was on the outside. So anyways.
Well, the knee issue you had at Yeti too, right?
Yeah.
That inside knee issue?
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. And then I had done something, strained it at the Strawberry Plains 10K in February and going around a cone. And then that basically just wrecked all of my training for the next 4 months. So,
but you know what? Maybe that's how it was supposed to be, Ron.
It worked out good.
Because it did keep you from overtraining for bigs.
I wish it hadn't. I kind of want to overtraining.
But I really think it helped set you up for success in bigs, because you didn't overtrain. You went into bobs probably a little undertrained, but super healthy.
Yeah, exactly. That was my whole goal.
And I think that helped you.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Maybe it worked out exactly how it was supposed to.
Yeah, it might have held me back enough to where I was able to, not overtrain and just do enough to, it worked. So
yeah,
can't really.
No, you have
about that.
But
that was a definite on the top of my mind going into bigs, was not to overtrain, because I knew I only had 2 months. And I'm like, the only thing I can really do here in 2 months is makes things worse. So I just wanted to maintain.
I know. I remember when we were in our text back and forth, you were like, I was like, how's training going? You're like, I'm just trying to maintain. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I was like, good deal.
That was exactly the plan, and stuck to it.
So let's talk about the last loop, the last 2 loops. Let's do that. So let's talk about those and the knee pain, and how were you feeling? How did you navigate that, and how did you handle that?
Yeah. So you go out on the day loop, you do that short little pavement out and back, and then you go back through the chute, and then you enter into, Laz's Woods, run by the telephone pole, and then you start like the home stretch section is what I call it. And it's really runnable stuff. And then you hit the first like climb, and that's where there's like some boulders and stuff. You climb up that, and then you go down the section. Well, on that first down section, I just felt my knee just hurting. Like it was like twinge of pain. I'm like, that's not good. And then like just as the loop went, it just it didn't go away, and it seemed to be just getting worse. And that's like the first thought I had was like, this is not good. And I was so far behind already. I was like, well, I can't really walk. So I literally had to start like running up these hills that I would typically be hiking up. But I was just running them. But the uphills was good. Uphills I could run, and it did, because I don't think I was like extending my leg as much on the uphills. Like it was already bent. So I could go uphill pretty good, but on the downhills and like some of the turns and stuff like that, that's when I was like, that's not good. And it just felt like somebody's jabbing like a screwdriver in the side of your knee.
Which knee was it? The
right knee.
Right knee.
Outside. And so I work real hard, and I finally see Piotr up ahead. And by this time I'm running, because I don't know how far back I am. And I'm looking, I'm go through, there's certain points on the trail where like there's V trees. And so if you know where you're supposed to be at the V tree, that kind of tells you like where you're going to end up. Well, I was like 3 minutes back from where I typically was at the first one. And the second one is about the same. So I hadn't gained any time between those two. And I was like, okay, well, I typically am running this, so I need to run the rest of this loop just to maybe have a minute or two because my day loops was 55 the day before. That's running fine. Now I'm 3 minutes back. I'm going to be at 58. So I got to move. And so I'm literally running every uphill that I can, just trying to catch up. And so I finally catch up to Piotr on the final climb, which takes you over the hill and back down to the home stretch. And he's like, "Ron, you're on 57 pace." I was like, "I don't care." I was like, "I think I'm done. This is probably it." Because it's like my knee's hurting. It's like, I don't know if I'm at this point, I think I'm pretty much done with the race. So I'm just like cruising as fast as I can and just try to get this last lap in.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. It was like, okay, I'm just going to get this one lap in.
And what did you come in at?
I don't know.
But you did get,
I was so out of it.
Come in on time?
I came in on time. I was actually ahead of a few people. I think I passed a couple people because I was just had the adrenaline going and just trying to get through that pain. And so, I come in and I sit down in the chair and I'm just I think the race is done.
Yeah. And the bad part is once that hits your brain and you're like done like that, it's hard to tell yourself otherwise too. Yeah. But also at the same time, the fact that you had to run as hard as you did on that last lap. I mean, when you get to that point, you kind of feel, every now and then you can have that lap and still like come back. But when you have that lap where you're running as hard as you can to try to stay awake, it's just so disheartening. And you literally burn a little bit of energy you do have for the next lap. And it is so hard to just be able to save that. And, every now and then you can, but it usually doesn't last much longer.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But so that ends your journey then at 308, which is a PR by 104 miles from what, 2 months prior?
2 months. Yeah.
So Bob's is a PR of what,
20-some?
Yeah, 20-ish miles. And then Biggs is a PR over that of 100 plus miles.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, man, like to be able to recover and to get back out there and do that. But also in all of that, to be able to navigate like day one, that night, just everything not going your way. And being able to stay in there and realize that like you were going to be able to push through it, and not knowing that, but doing it, and you did it, and then now you're like biggest PR ever. That's a huge PR. You're the number 1 15th seed in the world, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
And and you've done something that not a lot of people in this world's ever going to get to do.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's what I was telling some of the other guys while we were running. I'm like, even if I have to end my race like literally right now, this is on the second day, I was like, if I end my race right now, I'm proud, because I've getting through what I did that first night and never done anything like that far before, never ran anything through like that. So I was already like super stoked with the race before we even got to 48 or any of the other stuff. I was already really happy with the race that I put together.
Now, you won Bob's the previous time to get into Biggs, correct?
Yeah.
And what happened there?
So I ended up having COVID like a month and a half before Biggs. And so I went into the World Championship. I'd only ran 4 miles, I think, between then and the race. Like it took me out. Yeah. I had problems with proprioception, just walking. I could hardly take a shower because when the water hit me, I would lose my balance.
Oh wow.
So there was a lot of like sensory issues and things like that going into that. And I would say I wasn't even running until a week before the race.
I remember that. I remember following you at Biggs, and I was like, oh, Ron must not have. My first thought was like Ron must have been sick or something, I
was literally just starting to recover fully, I think. And so I was able to start running again. But like I said, I ran 4 miles the week before. I was sore after that little short run because I just hadn't ran. I'd been walking. I had done a lot of walking and stuff. But when you go into a race like, and I pushed myself, like I still got 125 miles or something.
Yeah.
And I got to run. The thing is that even though I didn't have a great race, that experience really, like, seeing some of the other runners, I helped Harvey when he, I helped crew him a little bit after I had dropped out. So I got to sort of see like what he did when he came in. He's like sitting over there doing yoga and stuff in the middle of the race. And then I would go over and I'd watch Teramichu. And so he would be doing stuff and I would watch, like, what is he eating? What is he doing? And so you're just in that environment and you get to learn so much from that experience. So I took everything in at that race. Yeah. I had just as much fun ending that race as I did running it. Because then I got to hang out with everybody and see what was going on.
But you didn't get the experience you got this year.
No.
And that's the thing. It's like you got your redemption shot.
Yeah.
And you definitely took full advantage of it. And that was my whole thing, was like, I knew that you got to go to Bigs, but you didn't really get to show the world what you could do at Bigs.
Yeah. And honestly, I still don't even think, like, even after this, I know I wanted to go farther. Like, I wanted to keep going, but from like a health perspective, I had to stop where I did.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing with this sport in general. And I think you're a good, you show that very well in the fact that, like, you might find your end, but that doesn't mean like that's your cap, like you've had bad races and you've had really good races, but just take, for instance, like every time that I shouldn't say every time, but for the most part, like every year, I guess is a better way to say it. Every year you have improved your backyard result significantly. And this year you improved it twice with 2 new PRs, and that's the thing. It's like, you find your stopping point. Like, something stops you, but you need that to be able to figure out how the hell you're going to get better. And you're taking full advantage of that, because like your next goal is going to be more than 304, 308 miles. It's going to be like, what's my new PR?
It always goes up. I don't know why they do that.
But you're constantly learning, you're constantly changing, and you just, when you think you've got it figured out, something will humble you.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Bring you right back to reality to help you figure out what you need to do next. And I think you've done that this year. Like, your year didn't start off well at all, but you never stopped training. Like, you kept pushing yourself, you kept doing what you needed to do. And look, I mean, now you set a huge record. That's amazing. And you got to run with, Team USA.
The top athletes in the United States.
Yeah.
So for the backyard, does Laz still light the cigarette?
I don't think so.
Did he not?
He
does. Does he do the whistle?
I know. Honestly, it's like it's such an interesting thing to think about, because you plan for this thing and it doesn't really hit real until you hear that bell or those whistles. Mm-hmm. Like, you hear the 3 whistles and you're like, oh crap. like now it's started. And so after that point, once I hear those 3 whistles, I'm not even the same person anymore. I'm a different person. I'm a different person once the race starts. It's not even me anymore.
Wired Ron.
Yeah. Wired Ron. Oh my gosh, I like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone that's doing their very first backyard?
I would say, and that goes for the same with all training, is like, do as many other things as you can. Like, get as much experience as you can. It's all about experience in the backyard. There's not any training plan. I think one particular thing that you can do that's like, hey, you do these things, then you're ready for a backyard. You can run a whole day, no problem. But, the things that I did was like sleep training, so you can take like short naps during the day. Mm-hmm. I even heard Harvey did that. I didn't know he did that, but that's one thing that I did. So you can practice that, like practice your timing. But mostly it's like getting in the miles year after year. So you got to have the experience. You got to be able to run lots of different races, because then you go through those things. You go through the stomach issues. You go through the different kind of pains that you have. Like, is this a pain I should run through, or is this a pain I shouldn't run through?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then mentally breaking your barrier, whatever that is. So if you've only ran 20 miles, try to go run 25. If you've only ran a 3-hour marathon, maybe try to get that to 2:58. Whatever the barrier is, you got to mentally try to break through that, see if you can do that. And then you got to take that mindset and you got to bring it into the backyard. And it's like, okay, well, where's your limit? Okay, here it is. Now let's see if we can get through that. So whether that's, maybe it's only 16 hours, maybe it's 12 hours, who knows? But you can do that. You can do that. That's the beauty of the backyard. It's for everybody. Like, anybody can jump in. You can see how far you can go, and that's awesome.
Well, and that's great advice. And the reason I was asking that is because this podcast will probably be released before Barn Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we got a lot of people that it's their very first one.
Yeah.
I know Tasha, she's been like just running 4.167 miles, and she's practicing that, just trying to get used to it.
That's what I did. That's literally what I did. And if you can run 2 of them, even better. You can run 2 yards in a row sometimes, and I'm like, okay, this one was 40, that one's 42. There we go. Our training's done for the day. You don't have to overthink it. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, you don't really know until you at least try.
Yeah.
Then you can figure out, because everybody's going to be different. Like it's one of those, you're learning what works for you. So you get the general idea, but then you have, food, shoes, all that stuff. You don't really know. I mean, just like Ron still had blisters the first night, and I show up at a race with the wrong, no shoes. I mean, it's something that you're always learning. You're always trying to get better. But if you don't show up at that starting line and give yourself the opportunity, you're never going to know where that line's at.
And you made me think of another thing that you can do, and that is crew somebody. If you really want to learn the ins and outs.
Great point.
Yeah, definitely.
that truly is like that.
You want to get in there and crew. And I crewed Barn Creek last year for Sean.
Yeah.
And I really wanted him to go like so much farther. It was so frustrating because he was in the perfect position. Like, he had that nutrition was dialed in, sleep was dialed in, he was getting his naps, he had everything. And so he got to just over 100 miles, and that was the farthest he ever went, which is amazing. But he had a lot in him, and I was trying to I did everything in my power to get him to go back out. But when you're done, you're done.
It wasn't for fatigue. It was just he's like, I'm done.
He was happy with it.
He's just standing there at the start line,
and that's awesome. Like, he said, I came out here and I did what I wanted to do. How are you going to argue with that, right?
So is Laz the official coach of Team USA?
I don't even know.
I was wondering that. I'm like, is he
maybe
coach?
What he'd be considered, honestly.
I mean, he's kind of the. I mean,
I would say he's more like our mascot.
The Marlboro Man.
Yeah. But Laz is he's an awesome character. And it's funny, I don't really talk to him much. Like, I've been to his farm twice, and I never really said more than a couple words to him. And I kind of like to keep him where he's at. He's more like a mythical figure. Yeah. And it's hard for me to just talk to him. I want to talk to him like a regular person. I don't want to talk to him like Laz, the guy. I just want to talk to him like, hey, you got an awesome farm here. This is great. But usually I'm too tired to talk to him. So, because when he came to interview me, I was half asleep. I'd just taken a nap after I dropped, and he's like, "Yay!" Came over and said some words to me. So it's really special, though, what he's done, and the amount of he does care. He does care about all the runners. So,
well, it's pretty special what he's done in general, just with his races.
Yeah,
like he's created events that have triggered so many other things for other endurance events, like Vol State.
Yeah.
I mean, that was alive long before 200-mile races. Like he was already like And it was just him and a bunch of guys walking down the damn street like, I'm going to do, you know, we're going to do this every year, you know, and then it turns into, it was a fat ass event to begin with.
Yeah.
And then it turns into Vol State, you know, and like, that's the thing. It's like very, you know, it's going to be very rare that we ever have people like Laz where they create this thing that's going to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, like this backyard is something that it's going to last for a lifetime. Like it's going to only get bigger. And he built that. Like I remember the first time, I don't know if y'all remember this, but the first time I saw Big's Backyard Ultra, I'm like, is this in his backyard? I'm so confused. Like this was long before, you know, this is like anybody could get in. Like it's when it first started, I was like, what is
Well, I actually wanted to do the backyard. It's one of the things I wanted to do, but I just wasn't ready yet. And you were saying, like, how do you prepare for it? Well, I prepared by running a ton of races and doing all this other stuff. You know, because before 2021, I had ran 100 miles, I'd ran trails, I'd ran 50Ks, 100Ks, you name it. So that's one thing that.
And I do feel like this is like, not that you don't do great at the races, but I feel like this is probably like your best event. I can tell that you really like it. Yeah. So I think you actually put way more effort into this than you do your other races.
I'd always wanted to, because people, when I was started doing ultras, they're like, oh, you're going to do Barkley marathons. You're going to do Barkley marathons. I'm like, well, I don't want to get lost in the woods and get cut up and all this stuff. You know, I was like, I want to run the backyard. And they're like, what's backyard? I'm like, it's pretty, it could be good. I was like, if I can get in there and, you know, and run to my potential, then I knew I could do well.
Yeah, and I feel like this is probably like your bread and butter. Like this is the thing you found that you're really good at. Like you've managed it well. You know, because like you take 100-mile races, 50-mile races, anything. I feel like this is the race that like you're going to figure out how to survive regardless. And that's the thing. It's like you got to find that one thing that like awakens you. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this race has done that for you. Like, would you think about it this way? Like in a 50-mile race, that first night, would you have finished?
Probably
not.
Stomach issue. I'm trying to think of a race where I had a stomach issue and I continued. And yeah, I did. Henson Lake 24-hour. The first year I ran that, I had major stomach issues, threw up in the night, recovered, and then I managed to pull it back. But that's the experience. Like that, you got to go through those things. So yeah, I can say that I would. But certain other races, like Damn Yeti 50-mile, no, I didn't finish. I didn't finish. Yeah, so it depends on what it is.
Well, I just really think that this is like your spark.
Yeah.
You know, and that matters. It truly matters. Like to find something that you can't give up on.
Yeah.
You know, that's once you find that thing, you know, granted, it may not be your thing 5 years from now, but right now, I feel like that's your thing. Like it motivates you.
It does. But man, when you're in it, it is rough. It's like, gosh, it's like you're running for days at a time. And your legs are hurt, you're sore, you just had hallucinations all night, and you still got to get to that corral. It's a crazy mindset. I love it, I really do, but it's a lot harder when you're in it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, I'm never doing another one of these again. I don't know what point that was, but there was a point when I was like, this is the last one. This is it.
Now you don't feel that way.
No, I didn't once I was actually finished, but in the middle of the race, yeah, for sure. There was the time of like, okay, this is the one and done. We'll end it here. We'll go as far as we can, and then that'll be it. Because it's hard, you know.
Well, I just seeing you and watching you and listening to you talk about it, like it's different. Your passion is different. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing. It's like I think you found your spark for now, and it will change. You know, like we all grow, we all change. Like at some point you'll probably get burnt out on backyards, and you'll.
I do want to switch over. I was going to say I want to switch over and get back into some real races because that's a difficult thing about the backyard. It's a big time commitment. You're carving out all this time for the actual race itself, and the training and the recovery. It takes away from other races that I could be doing.
Yeah, the recovery is huge. Like it's
Still,
months too.
It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm expecting 3 weeks to 4 weeks before I really start, doing anything significant again.
I mean, yeah, probably for you feel better, but I would imagine like your blood markers, it's going to be months before they're back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
I'm still like my quads. Like I bent down today and I was like, ooh, that's still not right yet. Okay.
I mean,
and the bottoms of my feet too, like I told you.
You still have blisters?
It's not blisters, but like the actual pounding. There's bruising and there's stuff in my under my bones and things like that I can still feel. Like even today when I went for my walk, I was like, ooh, that's still a little tender in there. So yeah.
Well, and I want to give your wife a little credit too, because she crewed you at Bob's.
Yeah. And my family.
And that was that her first time crewing you?
She's been to races, but for backyard, yes. Yeah.
She was like really into it. Like when I went to talk to her, like she was really enjoying it. We added her on the Dirt and Vert group, and she was like keeping everybody updated. Like I could tell she was in it, and even for bigs, like you could see just the level of like she was all about keeping everybody updated, and Ron, and like she was just all over it, man.
She's been
like
amazing.
And to see that she made you a menu.
Yeah.
Like, April again, East Coast Adventures races, just let us know. I think that's awesome that you have both found something that, she wants to help you with and that you're really good at. And like, that's awesome because you get to be a really great team.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were a team at something that only 15 people in the United States was a part of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really special.
It's awesome because she's not a runner. She appreciates it and everything, but she hasn't. It's a difficult thing because when we met, I wasn't a runner, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we met, we were both artists, and so I played basketball sometimes, but that was it. That was all I did. So yeah, this whole running thing was something that developed, for me. And I went from marathons to this, and it's like, how long is this one now? So it's a difficult thing, and it takes time away from the family. You got to train. So I definitely train less than I used to when I first started. Honestly, I used to train a lot more, but I try to keep the balance there. And help her out with whatever she needs as well. So it's a give and a take. She's going to help me crew this, then I'm going to help her with her art classes or whatever she needs. So I've got to be there for her now too, just as much as she was there for me. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Well, and that's a cool thing that y'all are building too. Like just over the last year, just with that, I'm sure that's helped your relationship grow even closer, which is
for
really
sure.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And like I said, there was difficult times when I'd have to go for a run, and like, no, you don't. Like that was going to be that thing. So
I'm sure she gets it now that she sees.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing, was like her being there, and Bob's is a special race. I don't know if you've picked up on that, but it's like a family thing. And so her being in there and seeing like, oh, maybe he's getting more out of this than just, winning the race or being, putting himself on a pedestal or whatever. It's not about that all the time. It's about being with your friends and building relationships and stuff. So.
Yeah. Bob's felt very much like Ode to Laz to me. Ode to Laz was the same way, like very much the same people every year that run it, and it's just a family. And Tad, he's the race director. He's just phenomenal. The first year that I ran that race, there was 175 participants. Wow. And it was me, Piotr, and Sarah. And Sarah had won it every year. So that was actually the first year that she didn't win. It was when Piotr won it. It was, and we ran together for, all of Sunday, just us three. And so I got to know them really well, which is awesome. And that's the thing. It's like when you're doing that, you see how special that is. Yeah. And Bob's, I didn't get to see that because I didn't stay long enough. Like I didn't even make it through the first night. Like that's probably the worst backyard I've ever done. But it's okay. Like that wasn't my goal. That's not what I trained for. And it happened that way. But I could tell just from like Bob and the people there that like it was a family.
Yeah.
I wish I could have got to see more of it. And you don't really see that till you've been with people throughout the night and the next day, and then you start to see all that come out. But I could just tell from that point, like it was a family atmosphere. I mean, he had his daughters out there like recording and taking pictures, and like it was just the whole family, and it was just really cool to see. But that's also what makes the sport so awesome is not even just the backyards, but just all the race directors that treat their races like that, because that truly is why people continue to come back. Why you went back, you felt something special at
Absolutely.
Bob's,
Yep.
Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir, and let you ask Ron some questions.
Let's see what we got here.
This is going to be good. There's
Let's
no
go.
telling what you got. And there's probably Brian Vermillion playing some type of...
Oh, he hasn't hooked us up this time with
Oh,
music.
he hasn't?
No. Kind of disappointed there. Need to pick it up. He did it to me one time, and he even put on the caption for the podcast. I'm like, I ain't sharing it right now because you're going to get me with it. All right, let's see here. Let's check the group first. Let's see here. Nutrition in your backyard. I think we covered that. Big variety, big menu. Somebody said he doesn't have a question, but he is an awesome talent. To have that kind of control and everything that he did, 300 plus miles, is incredible. And I'm glad he's my friend.
That's awesome.
Is that someone from the team?
It is.
Yeah, that's
These are
great.
teammates right now.
I love it.
What advice would you give someone to race a backyard style race to keep them moving forward?
Yeah. Man, it all happens before the race, right?
Mm-hmm.
It all happens before the race. You got to mentally train for as long as you can. Whether that's months or hopefully years for me, but that definitely that 2 month, well, I guess 3 month period leading up was all about getting myself in that daily mindset of, putting in that 1 yard. If you can just do that 1 yard, you're good.
Yeah.
So practice that 1 yard, whatever it is, and train for the race. So with this one, we had a lot of elevation and road. So I made sure to get, some hills and stuff in. I mean, that kind of goes for any race, I think, that you're doing. Train for the race. If it's a marathon and you got certain times, you need to be doing your workouts. Of course, that starts months in advance. Hopefully you're slowly like chipping away at those times and getting them faster and faster as you go.
I love the fact that you said mentally, like get your mind right, because training is a big piece.
Yeah.
But for a backyard, you have to be prepared to be there. And I think people forget like how long you can truly be.
You got to be so patient too. You got to be so patient.
I think when
patient.
When I came up and brought you your box, that's one of the things that you said. You said, I'm mentally ready for it.
Yeah.
Like,
Awesome.
your body's there, but like, if you're not mentally prepared for it, your body can be the greatest shape ever. But if you're not ready to suffer and keep going, lap after lap, it's not going to work out. So you're right. You have to be mentally prepared. And it was evident you were.
Yeah. I mean, that's hard to think about sometimes, to think about like you may still be running 3 days from now, 4 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't plan for that and prepare for that, and like plan for that, I mean like, okay, I better take off work because I'm seriously doing this. Not, I'm going to call in Monday if I get there. Yeah. No, because you don't want that on your brain.
Yeah.
You have to have everything ready if you're truly committed.
And we did. I mean, I had you there. You were there on the 4th day. I had Chris there on the 5th day. Yep. So, I was literally prepared to go as long as the race needed to go. I hoped I could just hang with Harvey, honestly, because I thought he would probably try to go for 450 or whatever. Yeah. But that kind of goes out the window. Like that's pre-race thinking. Yeah. And it doesn't work out like that. Like if somebody has this PR, it doesn't really matter. once you get in there. It doesn't matter what your PR is.
Right. Every race day is different. Every race day is different.
Yeah. This is the last team question. Maybe we might have one more. What do you do to keep going when it literally feels like you can't take another step, whether that be from exhaustion or extreme blistering?
I'm just thinking back to bad blisters. I did a half marathon. I did the Secret City half marathon. That was one of the first half marathons I did, and I had bad blisters for the last 5 miles of that race. And I kept running through it, just grit my teeth, run through it. There's been a lot of races like that where I've had bad blisters and just kept going. So, got to experience it. And you learn to change your shoes or get different socks, whatever. Hopefully you can mitigate a few of those things.
Yeah.
But you have to have gone through it to mitigate it, basically. So like I was saying before, get the experience, do more races, do as many races as you can, really. Training, do hard workouts, and do them in the rain, do them in the do them in the snow. My streak is still going, 1 mile a day outdoors. We'll be at 5 years coming up. Actually, oh no, we hit it. Yeah, it's November. I just realized it's been 5 years.
That's awesome.
5 years, maybe today. I don't even know. Yeah, so 1 mile a day. I don't even think about it. It's just automatic for me.
So I've heard multiple takes on this, and it really depends on who you talk to. But some people talk about how they try to block out the pain.
Yeah.
Some people accept it. Some people just try to ignore it. Some people, and I think it's funny to listen to everybody, because everybody has oh no, you have to just tell your brain no, and you're not going to feel it. And I'm just I'm not that guy. I just have to say, this is what I have. Now, how do we make it work? Yeah. Because blocking it
only works so long.
Yeah, you can only do that so long.
That only works till something else starts hurting.
Yeah.
For me, and I know everybody's different, but for me, I have to just accept it and be if I can work through it, I can still finish at the same time. And to me, that's the win. It's can I push through this and finish? Because the quicker I can get done, the quicker that I can quit worrying about this pain. That's always my thing. But in a backyard, you don't really get that option. Nope. So, you have to figure out, you just have to kind of just work through it or accept it and just try to figure it out.
Just accept the pain, eat the pain, because it's just going to be there regardless. After certain miles. Is it? Yeah. I don't even know. I don't. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. And there's certain pain, like I said, there's certain pains that are okay, certain pains that aren't.
Yeah.
And it's gonna hurt. But if I can physically, though, I think if you train enough, you can physically overcome that pain.
Yeah.
I think you can. So I think a lot of it just comes from training, and hopefully, even doing hard hills. If you want to feel some pain, do some hard hills that are steep, and your legs will be hurting very, very quickly. So getting that in doses, you'll start to get numb to it, I guess.
Well, it's just part of, unfortunately, it's part of a long distance race. If you ever do your first 100 miler, you learn real quick that
no amount of training you do is gonna just eliminate all of your pains. Right. Maybe it'll reduce it some. And hopefully it does. If you've really done a lot of training, I think you could get through, I don't know, maybe a 50K, but beyond that, the 50 miles, you're gonna feel something.
50 miles is
how did 50 miles feel for you, David, when you were running Yeti?
It was actually, the 50 wasn't bad, but mile 46. 46 is when I threw up everywhere.
But pain-wise.
And then the cramp set in on the calf. And, I just kept running because I knew I only had 4 miles left. That's different in a 100-mile race. And that's the thing. It's all relative to what you're doing. And, just this past weekend, Penhody, mile 1, messed my ankle up. I'm I'm here. I'm going to run. It's not going to be the race I wanted, but I'm going to do this because I want that buckle. 56 miles later, that didn't work. But, you know, like that was the mindset I had, was like, I'm going to keep going. Like, I've already messed my ankle up. I'm already here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. And, you know, you have to be prepared for that. But at the same time, it's all relative to what you're doing. Like, I knew that if I got to that 100 miles, I would be done.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're in a backyard,
there is no
your
finish.
brain is sitting there thinking like, well, I may be running for 3 more days like this. I'm just going to quit now.
Yep.
And that's the stuff that you can't tell yourself. Like, you can accept the pain, you can do whatever you want with it, but the one thing you can't do is say, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because once you say that mentally, it's happening. And you got to figure out how you work through that yourself. And it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I hit it at mile 57 Saturday. You know, I was like, yep, the ankle can't handle it no more. I'm done. And you know,
but that's an injury pain. That's an injury pain. I'm talking about like your quads are just shredded. You know, you don't even feel like there's muscle there anymore. It's just, you know, meat, and it's just, you know, chopped up meat that's there for your legs. That's all you got. That kind of pain is, you know, you don't get there until a certain mileage, I think. If you're trained well.
Yeah.
And maybe you hit that earlier if you're undertrained.
That's true. But, you know, I mean, and that's the hard part about like a backyard, though. Like we were saying, it's like when you get to that point when your quads or your hams, whatever, are trash, like to be able to say, okay, I mean, there's no end to this race. I'm just going to keep doing it. Like that is so hard. And you don't really know how to navigate that until you've done it.
Get there.
You know, and you did it up to the knee, you know, and like, that's the thing. It's like, you're always learning how to navigate something. Something may get you. It may get you. Yeah. But damn it, the next time it's not, because you're going to think about, you've already thought about that. I know, like, if that happens again, what I'm going to do. And it takes those failures to lead to those big successes. Sure. You know, like, you can't get there without that. Yeah. And to do 2 PRs in 2 months, I mean, you had to do a little bit of that in both races, you know?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
We definitely had our rough patches. I mean, you're going to have rough patches, but hopefully you can push through that, keep going on the other side. Seemed to work for me. So.
That and the oatmeal.
The oatmeal. Yeah. And, you know, I didn't really say a lot about this, but just being around those other runners it lifts you up to a different level.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you're running right beside Harvey Lewis.
Yep.
And he's breathing hard and you're not, and you're like, come on, Harvey, let's go. That's pretty epic. Like, that's one of the things, like, I remember, because we were on like that 3rd night, and Harvey was having a rough patch, which we all did. I had mine for sure. And I was, you know, ran with him, and I was like, we're going to do this, and just talked to him a little bit, pushed him through, got him through that lap. Felt great. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we all looked for other people that were just having their moments and pulled them through. So when you're around runners like that, it's pretty amazing. Yeah,
that's pretty inspirational, period. You know, just to get to run with some of the biggest elite people around for the backyards.
Yeah. I mean, and Scott, you know, Scott Snell, he was at Bob's. He didn't have the best race. And I was at Bob's. I was actually unfortunate because I was like, man, he's like one of the, I knew he had like a huge PR, and I was like, man, he's out. That's I was kind of good, because I'm like, okay, now I can, now I've got, my chances just went up dramatically. But at the same time, I'm like, well, now how far are we really going to go? Because, you know, people were kind of dropping off in the night. We only had a few left.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to get to 200 for sure. So, yeah, but, you know, and then at Biggs, there he comes back. Boom. He just absolutely crushes it. Like, I'm not even sure if he hurt the entire race. He just looked like he was running along smoothly. He never was too far ahead, never was too far behind. He ran that race perfectly. That's awesome. I mean, that's what you want to be. You want to be like in the crowd. Nobody sees you. Yeah. And then at the end you're there,
The last
right?
one there.
Yeah, that's what he did. He ran a perfect race. It worked awesome for him, and kudos to him. That was an awesome effort, and Meg as well. Just beating the women's world record.
She's now the queen of bigs.
It's awesome, and so you're running with people like that. It's really cool. It's a really cool thing.
Did you happen to look at her stats before the race?
I looked at a few runners just to see where they were from and see a few things that they had done, but I didn't know who had won what, because we were like, what race did you win?
Yeah.
What race did you win? That's kind of crazy that you have to ask people.
We had never looked at Meg's.
No.
It's full. I had looked, but I had not looked and put it all together. Yeah. Just look at her races this year.
Some crazy stuff.
She ran 2 100-milers for big. She ran 526 miles at 6 days in the Dome.
Now I knew she had ran at the Dome.
She ran.
Well, then she
ran 3 200-mile races all this year, every month.
Yeah. We're going through this, and I'm like, there's 200 something.
August.
There's a 200 something.
So literally, August, she ran a 100-mile race. September, she ran a 100-mile race. And I'm like, and we're on the podcast, I'm like, most people would at least took a month off, but not Meg. Not Meg. She just went for it.
Yeah, and she was just crushing it out there. Like I said, a lot of times she would be the one that I would look for. And I'm like, if I can, Meg and Dave too. That first night, or the second night, when we hit the night loop, me and Dave were running maybe it was third night. I can't remember. Third night, we hit the night loop, and it was either second or third night. But me and Dave were running together, and man, we were just in sync. We were just smooth operating. We went out and we just crushed that lap. I was like, I didn't even feel like I ran. It was so cool to run with somebody else like that and have that many miles in your legs and stuff.
Yes.
That kind of pumped me up a little bit. I was like, I need some more of that.
Especially on day 3 or not 3.
Yeah. It was either 2 or 3. I can't remember, but
I'm sure they're all kind of a blur at that point.
Yeah.
So.
But it was really great running with everybody. Like I said, individually, so many awesome runners, Greg, Ryan, all those guys. I mean,
that's really cool. I mean, it's something special, really special.
Yeah.
And, it was really, they did a great job updating this year too. It was fun to follow along. Tracy does a great job anyways, but I just felt even the pictures this year, we got to see a lot more. You can watch the live stream, but it's really cool to see pictures because you can truly see more in pictures sometimes because the video isn't always super clear.
It's not always clear, and it's not always right on people.
If I could change one thing, it would be how they do the videoing, because the connection they have is not that great there. And what they should do is have a guy go out with the camera and film everything and then come back and then upload it, instead of trying to do it all live, because that live feed just has to go through the satellite or whatever it is. So it's all choppy and broken up. Can't really tell what's going on.
Yeah.
But if they just videoed it and then uploaded it, it would be 100% HD, all clear, Well, I think that would be a cool addition.
Maybe Laz going to upgrade to Starlink.
That's about to say, he needs some Starlink out there.
Well, it's like the French crew. So those guys were right behind me. The media tent was literally right behind my tent.
Really?
And I could hear them talking. My April was actually getting mad because they were back speaking French. I don't know anything. I don't know what they're talking about, but they were loud. They were talking loud. I'm trying to sleep, I'm trying to rest, and they're just going on and having all these conversations and stuff. So
he followed you that last lap.
Yeah. The last two.
The
last two were my really rough patches. Yeah. The first one's where I started to feel my knee and I had to make up. And then the last one I went out and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make this my last lap, and I'm gonna just run it in and I was hurting
when I turned it on. He was sitting there right there with you everywhere you went, followed you all the way up.
Yeah, because I think he did the lap before, and so when he saw me again, he's like, "Okay, I gotta run with him again." And I told him, I was like, "Man, you're keeping up with me. That's pretty good." Because I was moving on the uphills, and I could hear him breathing hard behind me.
That motivates you to run a little faster.
It did, because I'm I got 300 miles on my legs. He's just filming. I was working him like a pacer.
This is my last question here. How did you stay in the moment when it was hard, how did you push past it?
Yeah, I mean, really, I was in it the whole time. Really, just until my knee went. That was really the only time. And even Becca was like, "This is the first time you faltered the whole race." I'm like, "Well, it's the first time my knees felt like this the whole race." So, we went back and forth, and they're yelling at me in the woods to keep going and stuff. And I knew I was done at that point. I'd already hugged everybody and everything. So I was like, "Yeah, I want to end it here." and that's what we did. So,
well, I mean, when you run 300 miles, you kind of get what you want at that point, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, I did want to go farther. I really did. It just wasn't. It wasn't a healthy decision, and I don't. Even now, my knee is kind of, like I said, it's still not healed, and I don't know how long it's going to take. So if I had kept going, then
you would probably have a boot.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to make those decisions. You got to make those calls. That's part of it.
And that's the thing, like in this sport, it's a fine line between stupid and tough.
Yeah.
It really is. It's hard to navigate sometimes, to know whether you're truly injured or it's just your mind.
Yeah. I mean, could I have ran through it? Yes, absolutely. I could have. I could have kept going.
But would it have been the right choice?
Should I have?
Believe me, I'm having that conversation
I hear
today,
you.
Ron.
You made honestly, I think you should have maybe been more on the conservative side earlier on.
And I think I would have been if it wouldn't have been for No Business.
Yeah.
This happened to me at No Business too.
Yeah.
So my last two 100 milers have both been ankles or feet. Last time it was the foot. This time it was my ankle.
Man.
So, that was in my head, and I was like, okay.
I'm not going to let this happen
mile
again,
one,
right?
I'm like, no, we're finishing. We're going. Yeah. And I think if No Business wouldn't have been in the back of my head, then probably, I would have thought more about it. But I was like, this ain't happening again. We're going. We'll do it. And I told Chris and Mary, like when I sat down at miles, I don't know, it's like 17 maybe, when I rolled it again at 13. I just told him, I was like, I rolled it again, and it was already like red growing out of my shoe, and I was like, we're just going to worry about this on Monday. We're going to finish this race. And that's what I did.
That's awesome.
And
that's a great mindset. I mean, that's what you have to do. Like sometimes you have to push through those things.
But it wasn't the right decision, and that's the thing, is like I think back now, and it's like that's what's so hard to navigate. Like you can sit here and on the podcast and talk about like how you have to be tough and you have to push through things, but at the same time, like you have to kind of, and you need a good crew person. So that's really what it, also that helps, like to have a crew person that's not just going to say, you can quit whenever you want. Like you don't want that, but you want someone that's like, you need to keep going, or that doesn't look good. You're going to mess yourself up. Like stop. And you need that, because when you're 3 days into a race, you can't make that decision for yourself. You truly can't. You're not in your right mind. Everything feels 10 times worse. And to have a crew person that can do that for you is significant.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a fine line between a stupid choice or a tough choice.
So going back to the question earlier, what can you do to have a good crew? I mentioned that, but if you're looking to run a backyard, you better get yourself a good crew person, because it makes all the difference. Like literally, I'm not going 300 without a solid crew. There's no way. I probably wouldn't have even made it halfway. I don't even know.
Yep. And you need a crew person that is going to call you on your stuff.
Yep. Yep. They got to get you back. They got to get you back out there if you're complaining or sick or whatever.
Slouching around.
You can keep going. You can push through that stuff. Unless it's some kind of really bad physical injury, then you can probably keep going.
Yeah, it was funny when I finally at mile 57 and took my shoe off. That was the one thing Mary and Chris had already talked about. They're like, we're not going to look at it. We're not going to talk about it. We're just going to, and so when I took my shoe off, they were like, are you sure? You sure going to take your shoe off? Because that's like the thing they'd already talked about. Like, don't let him take his shoe off, and I love that, because like they were ready to keep me going.
Yeah.
And And you need that. Like, that's the thing. If you're trying to find a crew person, you don't want someone that's going to say, you don't have anything to prove. You can stop whenever you want.
Done enough.
Or you've done enough.
Today,
like,
right? Yeah.
Because, like, that whole person, that crew, your crew people or crew person is there to push you to your best. And that's like being a crew person is it's harder than running.
Yeah.
Because you are their life support. While they're running, you're getting everything ready for the next lap. There truly is no rest. You're always thinking about that person. So at the end of the day, you feel like you've ran that same race because you have.
Mm-hmm.
But you need that person that's going to say, no, you need salt. You need to take this. I don't care if your stomach's taking it or not. You look like you're dehydrated. You need to drink fluid. Yeah. You need to eat this, and that's the thing. You have to have that person or it's not going to work. So you're exactly right.
Becca literally forced salt tabs into my mouth. She's like, yeah, here you go. I'm like, okay, I'm taking it.
And that's what it takes. Like, you need that. And when you find those people, you don't forget that.
Yep.
Like you even learn something from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really blessed to have such awesome people. Andrew was awesome. Becca, my wife, everybody was awesome. And they had help from other crews too. And that's the cool thing. I didn't really mention that, but the team event, all the crews are helping each other as well. So if somebody needs something, they're giving it to them.
That is awesome.
It really does. It's an interesting difference between that and the individuals.
And I bet it was really good for April. I bet she learned a lot about crewing with being around all of those people.
Yeah. Because she's relatively new. Like she's been a good spectator and a good support for me. But this year, once she did Bob's and I was like, I need you. I literally said, I need you for bigs. Like because she didn't really want to do it.
She didn't?
Honestly. Well, she had to teach on Wednesday
I remember you telling me
and
that.
Thursday, so she would have had to leave Wednesday night, and that's why I was having such a hard time, like looking for different crews because I needed people that could be there for a day or 2 days and kind of take over those shifts.
Yeah,
well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
but for her, like just being around Becca, being around, and like sometimes having an ultra runner with you, to teach your crew is the best thing ever because like the ultra runner, if you're crewing somebody and you see something, you're like, oh, they need this. And until you've experienced that, sometimes it's hard. But if you're with someone that knows that and you're learning, you're like, okay, noted. And I bet April was doing that. Like, I bet she took all that in. She cares enough for your success to take all that in.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, she built you a 5-star menu.
She did.
That's
absolutely
awesome. So no more questions, Matt?
No more questions.
Cool.
Ron, you got any questions for us?
Man, questions for you guys. Well, Dave, I know what you're doing next.
Nothing.
You're recovering, and I'm in the same boat right now. I'm just recovering, thinking about what I'm going to do next year, thinking about the races and stuff like that. Matt, what about you, sir? What is your next goal? Because you're just coming off of race yourself.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Maybe a Lookout Mountain 18-miler. Because I did it a couple years ago, and I did not have the race that I wanted because I got lost. I just clearly walked over the flags. My fault, not the marking. I walked straight over the flags and walked up the hill.
Hey, I did that at Thunder Rock, but my eyes were closed.
And what I did was
call that sleeping, Ron.
I was hollering at David and Mary because we come down this long trail. I don't even know what it's called. It's not even a trail. It's like a road.
So Mary could tell you, but
I don't know what it was. But I hollered, and as I was hollering, I was looking up instead of looking down. And as I was looking up, I just walked over it, and I'm like, "Where's everybody at? I know there's people right on my butt. Like there's nobody behind me." And so I turned around and I walked back down, and there it was. 15 flags there. I mean, there's tons of them. And I just walked. So, I mean, I came in like, I think 20th, and it was like 307 or something. But I'm like, I think if I can go back, I can do a lot better.
Now, that's Chattanooga, right?
Yeah.
So on that race, is it you basically just climb up and back down?
Oh, you go down, you run on the bottom for a while, and then you climb 3 miles back up the top.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, it got me at the end because I walked a lot. Because I was trying to catch back up all the people that passed me when I took the wrong way. And then I got to the climb and I blew up. So I think I'm going to do that again, like December 21st.
Yeah, it's a fun
December?
race.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never ran it, but I've been there.
It's fun. It's a lot of rocks going down, a lot of leaves, a lot of trip hazards.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't even mention. Like on the second yard, I tripped and I flew Superman style because I was like, it was like the second yard, so I flew, and because the leaves were still covering the trail at that point,
yeah.
it was completely leaf covered. Couldn't see any of those little roots and rocks in there, and so I heard it. You know, you hear that thud, that when your foot hits something, just
Yep.
And then I flew forward, and my palms hit, and I hit right on my palm, and so I thought I broke it because it was starting to turn purple and blue, and I was like, if I broke my stuff on the second yard of this race, this is going to be crazy, and so it was stung the rest of the loop. Fortunately, it was okay, but man, after that, I toned it down. I was like, all right, we toning this down because it's like tripping right there. And so I only tripped twice on the.
At least you got it out of the way early
for the second loop, and then sometime later on, I was coming on the home stretch, and I heard it again. I heard my foot just thud into something, rock or root, and I fell, and somehow I grabbed one of the small trees. It was like a 4-inch tree. I grabbed it, and it kept me from falling all the way down. So I didn't actually even fall. Somehow I grabbed a tree mid-fall and prevented myself from falling. So I totally forgot about that until you.
So that's a little bit of a ninja warrior.
Yeah, it was total. I don't even know how I did it.
Whatever you got to do to keep yourself up.
Yeah. So those were the only 2 times.
Apparently, my ninja warrior reflexes suck.
No, because I've sprained my ankle umpteen times.
Oh yeah,
umpteen times. So it happened.
So what's next for you?
I don't know. I honestly, I haven't signed up for anything.
What about next year though? You got a goal? I can tell you my one goal.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to get back to Damn Yeti, but some of the other guys have put a little idea in my head, and I'm not sure if I want to do it or not. They're talking about a little backyard across the pond, and they kind of want to put a team together.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And go over there and kind of see what we can do on a flatter, more forgiving course.
Yeah.
And because a lot of the guys, right now, if you want to get into bigs for next year, you got to run 83, 84 yards.
Yeah.
That's standard. That's the bottom. Unless there's only so many there's only a handful of races that are going to do that.
Yeah, you have to have PR course.
Yeah. And so, they're planning on attacking that. I know Dave's signed up. He's got a couple other guys recruited. He's recruiting a super team.
That's cool.
So I'm thinking about that because it would be really neat. I've never gone international or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it would be an interesting thing. But the race is also around the same time as Damn Yeti, and I really think I could do well there if I.
You gonna do the 50 mile again?
Yeah, I really want to do the 50. I've done the 50K, 55K.
Yeah.
And, felt really good on that. So if I can just get close to what I did on the 55K,
yeah,
and just tone back that.
What is your 55K time there?
3:39.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So
there's another 55K in February.
Yeah.
It's in Athens.
Yes, and I'm thinking about that one too. So yeah, I'm wanting to do some racing. I want to get back to do some actual racing and training for get some speed work back and hopefully get out of this.
That's still my goal. Pinhoti or Bob's was not really my goal this year. It was the Fast 100.
Yeah,
it's all I worked on.
Man, and
so I think I'm gonna, if I can get my foot healed, definitely, I'm going to do pistol 100.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do, Jason's already sent out an email. So the people that didn't get in this year or we didn't get to race because of the evacuation and the flooding and everything, he's going to send out a message for us. We get first sign up. So I think I'm going to go ahead and sign up for Yeti 100 next year. So I'm going to try pistol and Yeti, and maybe between one of those will go well, because I need a good 100. And, I was hoping Pinhoti would go good, but also knew that I hadn't ran as many trails as I needed to, just like at Bob's. I hadn't ran no trails at Bob's. But that wasn't my goal, and that's the thing. It's if you know what your goal is and you focus on that, and I don't feel like I really got to do that. So the pistol, if I can get my ankle healed up, I would love to race that 100.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of races that I would love to do.
Yeah.
But it's always you gotta pick and choose, man.
Yep.
And it just.
And it's luck of the draw too.
Yeah. And then there's the luck factor.
Yeah. It's I got COVID a week before the race, or something.
Yeah. Or just getting into the races.
Yes.
Even the damn Yeti, you got to be signed up, early on. And other races like that, I've done Pinhoti twice. I've not done well twice. That would be one that's on the list. No Business, I didn't have a good race at. So, there's a lot of races I would like to go and actually do, and be healthy and everything. You just got to keep signing up for them. Hopefully things line up. They lined up for me in this half of the year. The first half, not so much.
That's the thing. It's a season.
Yeah.
It's a season, and take it for what it's worth. Like me and you were talking at the very beginning. We've had completely opposite years. Just flip flop. First 6 months was me. Last 6 months was you.
Yeah, and the 2 years ago was the opposite for me. The first half of the year, crushed everything. Was PR city, doing all kinds of stuff, and then the second half, absolutely.
I think that's how it goes. It's weird how that goes, because the beginning of the year for my marathons, they were all junk. And, the whole first half was just awful, and now this second half, I'm doing all just random stuff, and it's top 10 finishes across the board, which is good. It's fun.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what makes it harder for me right now to think about, is because I was used to racing every month.
Yep.
Which was not the right thing to do either, because I ended up with rhabdo and all this other stuff. But now it's you're training for this one race for months.
Mm-hmm.
And if something happens, it's oh wow, I just spent even if it's just a bad day, and that's the thing that sucks. It's not even if your race got canceled, etc. You can literally just have a bad day, and you have them when you're training. That you might go out one Saturday and have the worst run ever. The next Saturday you have the best run ever, and you're just I hope to hell this works out on race day.
It does.
And sometimes it's luck of the draw. And when you're training like that for one race, just like bigs, you're I hope it's a good day.
Right. Because going in, I didn't know if I could.
Well, just like the previous time.
Yeah.
You probably had a little bit of that in your head, I don't need to get sick.
Right. Or I don't know if I'm can I get through the first night? I don't know.
Yeah. I bet when you started throwing up, you're oh hell.
Honestly, at bigs, no. I literally that whole entire race, I never had a moment where I was
that's good.
This is I'm stopping. I'm going to do it. It just literally.
You had that mindset.
Was not an even.
He was mentally prepared for that.
To where it was, and even when I did stop, I didn't really want to. It was just kind of this is what I have to do, kind of thing. It sucks, but that's what we do. I
mean, you definitely had your mindset locked in, and that's a big piece of those races. So
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, anything else? We're 2 hours and 20 minutes in. I think we probably should stop and give everybody a break.
Here we go.
Ron, thank you so much for getting on here, sharing your story, and actually even just sharing all the details. I think this is pretty amazing. If you want to send me a picture of this, just as an example, I'll put it on the social media page with the stuff when we upload it.
Inquiring minds want to know.
That's right. I mean, Ken posted one. He sent us one. If anybody ever does Vol State on his, everything he put in his drop or in his bag and how much each thing weighed. He weighed his
waist
bag down to the gram, dude.
He was good.
It was crazy.
That is cool.
And he put so much detail into it, and you don't hear about that. Everybody hears that he won.
Yeah.
But how much work he put into that was why. You know, it was like the plan. And, you know, he even said, I didn't follow my plan.
But he had one.
But he had a plan, you know, and that's like planning the plan, you know, you're getting there, and that got him going. Yeah. And same for you, like this right here. I mean, you had a full menu, and you had your crew lined out 2, 2, and 2, and 2, you know, like you were ready all the way through Friday. And, you know, and that's the mindset you have to have, is like, I'm in this to win.
Yeah.
I'm in this for as long as it takes. And that's hard to do in a backyard, just because you don't know how long it's going to take, but like you were mentally prepared. So that's awesome stuff. And I would love to share that if you want to send it to me.
Yeah.
And April, way to go. Yes. I mean, amazing job crewing him. Yeah. And I can't wait to like see some of these menus at East Coast Adventures races.
Sorry, April.
But no, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you for coming here and doing it in person. That's been fun too.
Yeah, I really enjoy talking face to face with people a lot more than the online. The online stuff is great, but if I could be here, I really wanted to be here. So
well, this is fun. We might have to do this. We have to do this ever so often. Just get you on here to interview people with us.
I'm all for it, man. I love this stuff, and it's great. Half the time talking about it's better than doing it. You just have no pain involved.
No pain.
Well, and you get to learn.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's kind of cool. You get to learn.
We've learned a lot.
So many stories and how people react to things, and it's just really cool to see. Just like you know, like you just learn more and more about people the more you get to talk to them, and it's pretty impressive.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I had a great time, and thank you guys for having me on.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.